how to implement all the stuff you've discussed previously. So you're going to see a lot of before and after pictures, and even some bad before and after pictures are around. Tools, chainsaw. How many people in here have operated a chainsaw before? That's a great number to see. A lot of hands go up on. So you understand the importance of safety. The Forest Service teaches safety first on everything. Like, it's an abundance of safety. I can only echo that abundance of safety to you guys. It's important that you use all the PPE that you have. And PPE stands for personal protective equipment. The Forest Service makes us wear everything. Hearing protection, eye protection, hard hats, everything we have to wear. There's nobody regulating that for you. And I just would like to say, I'd like to see as much of that as possible, only because I don't want something bad to happen to you guys. So here's a list of our PPE, which it's abbreviated, just personal protective equipment. An approved hard hat, eye protection, appropriate gloves, heavy duty or cut resistant leather waterproof or 8-inch high laced boots with non-skid soles. All of that's important. It's not just important to, I mean, each one of those serves a purpose, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I told the story when we had a meeting that I've not followed these rules personally on my own time because it gets harped on me so much at work. As I've gotten older and I have a 5-year-old son now, I've come to the realization that this stuff's important. I don't want to lop off an arm or a leg and leave my son left behind with nothing, you know? And I want to teach him the right way. So, very, very important. Continuing on, long sleeve shirt, hearing protection, chaps. Again, in that same story, I said, I never wear chaps at home. And that's because I didn't have any, you know? Now, I've bought a pair of chaps, and it's like anything else. I'm trying to teach my son the right way to do a lot of things, and safety. When my son was just an infant, he started to stick his finger in an electric socket, and I slapped his hand, scared and panicked, first-time parent. And I realized that's not the right way to teach. Just like it's not the right way to learn about safety stuff with a chainsaw. You don't want to get cut, and that's the way you learn your lesson. Hand tools, pruners and hand saws. This is probably what most of us have. Although, by the number of people who raise your hand running saw, sounds like a lot of you have saws as well. Handy up to a point. We all know, right? That's a lot of work. For you want to have the right tool for the right job, or for the job. You know what I mean? That's going to take him hours on end, and he's going to be exhausted. Whereas if you had a chainsaw, 30 minutes, and you're good to go. And continuing on. So cutting techniques. For small brush, complete removal is best. The sawyer, the gentleman running the chainsaw there, maintains a comfortable, steady stance and turns the saw bar parallel to the ground and cuts the brush as low as possible without dipping the bar into the dirt. Like I said, I've been a sawyer on a hot shot crew, and not dipping the bar in the dirt is not always possible. Being honest here. Cutting techniques continued. Low cuts eliminate the brush and reduce re-sprout. But again, cutting the dirt is going to dull your chain. And sometimes a dull chain is worse than having a chainsaw, or not having a chainsaw at all. I mean, it's bad. We used to, as a joke to other sawyers, we'd take their bar and their saw and turn their chain backwards so they couldn't cut at all. It would just smoke. We work hard, but we have a sense of humor too. You know? But also one major thing with the dull chain is kickback. And if you've ever run a chainsaw like you said you have, when that chain hits something and kicks back at you, that's super dangerous. Not good. And a sharp chain will reduce the amount of kickback, definitely. So when you're limbing up large brush and you don't want to cut it all the way from the base, basically you want to avoid cutting the trunk of the brush or the tree or whatever you're limbing up, because that creates damage to that tree or that brush, and eventually could kill it. So you're planning on having this tree or this brush here, and you do something that's going to kill it in, say, a year or two. Now, instead of having like a one stand there's nothing in a couple years, and it's barren. So it's nice to work fast, but you also got to slow and steady wins the race, right? So remember that it'll need to be limbed up 6 to 10 feet at least. The closer your home, the closer to your home it is, the more brush should be removed and raised limb heights. So the closer you get to your house, the higher you want the limbs, and the less brush you want. You were talking about the defensible zones. Less fuel close to your house, which I wanted to say something that was said earlier. Fire's not really bad. Fire's not bad until it gets to your home. What it does to the ecosystem is good. There's plants that need fire to reproduce. You know, it's important. It's been here before us. It'll be here after us. The bad part is when we put our homes in the way of fire. I live in the woods. I do my best to clear around my house. It's not a bad thing. I love giant sequoias, one of my favorite trees. They need fire to reproduce. Without fire, no more sequoias. Cutting small limbs off the main tree is pretty basic. Just cut from the top down. Try and cut the limb as close to the trunk as possible without scarring the trunk. Notice the sawyer maintains a steady, comfortable stance to reduce fatigue and keeps his eyes on what he's doing and what he's cutting. So for a larger limb, you can see that they cut from the bottom up, there. Basically what that's for is you're going to cut up to relieve a little pressure. You probably don't even have to go that far up, because if it's a heavy weighted limb, it's going to start to pinch your bar when the weight of the limb pulls it down. But getting maybe a quarter of the way up is good. And the importance of that is when you start to cut from the top down, it's not going to peel bark away from the bud of or the base of your tree. And that could damage the tree if you don't do it this way. And that's what it looks like after. It's perfect. That's not going to damage the tree. When you do a cut on a tree or brush or whatever, you really want this vertical cut left. And basically because if you have something that's more horizontal, water can get there and freeze and expand and kill the tree or the brush, whatever you got behind. Also, be sure to watch that your feet are not under where the limb's going to fall. Pretty important, right? Get out of the way. And always try and stand uphill from the falling limb. Makes sense, right? Gravity, you and limb both go the same direction. Not good. For the removal of larger trees and even large brush, you may need to cut down or fall them using a pie cut. This is kind of advanced stuff. And if you aren't comfortable with the chainsaw, I do not suggest trying this. I've run a chainsaw for 18 years. I'm a feller, and not a feller as in a guy. Hey, feller. No, I'm a tree feller. So this is kind of advanced stuff, but if you know what you're doing, this is how to do it. If you don't know what you're doing, I would suggest calling somebody. Anybody that has experience felling trees. Oh, it even says it in there. Remember that felling trees is hazardous and you should not fell any trees that you're not comfortable doing. People look at big trees and say, oh, I'm not comfortable with that big tree. Small trees are as dangerous, if not more dangerous, when felling because there's less wood to hang on to and control the descent of the tree. My most dangerous incident with the tree was actually with a small tree. Big trees are easy. Small trees are crazy. When you determine the lean or the direction the tree wants to fall on its own, that's the way you want to go with it, okay? You never want to go against the lean because that's a lot of hard work. A lot of hard work. Remember, gravity wants to take that tree to the ground. So use that as your ally. Now, having said that, if you have a tree that's leaning towards something that you don't want crushed by a tree, that's a whole different can of worms. That's hard. I wouldn't suggest anyone in here trying that, even myself, for the most part. So you're looking at what's called a pie cut. Looks like a slice of pie. That's the direction you want to fall the tree. You aim your pie. If you look at a chainsaw, it has like kind of a sight on it. You start at the bottom of your pie cut, you bring the top of your pie cut down to it, and then you bring a back cut in. Now, that's an overview of a class that's usually like a 2-day class for the Forest Service. So, I mean, they're showing you how to do it, but unless you know what you're doing, I really suggest not. Because the second you cut, this section here is called holding wood. The moment you cut all the way through, all the bets are off where that tree's going. It's super, super dangerous. But there are many websites that can provide you with more information on how to do this, and also talking to your local saw shop if you want to give it a try. I probably would have not had this in there. I think it's important that unless you know what you're doing, you get someone in to do it for you. That's what a pie cut looks like. And you can see that's a small tree. You're only supposed to do your pie cut in 1/3 of the way. That way you have room for your back cut and holding wood. Basically, the wood in the middle that you don't cut all the way through slows your tree down on this end.
If you make that cut too big, won't the tree fall over?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Probably the cut that you guys would deal with the most, small trees, is called a TSI cut, where you just simply come through the tree and it falls over on its own on a smaller tree, something 3 inches in diameter. Or you cut it to the point where it's about to fall over and then you kind of push it over. You know what I mean? That's probably the cut you guys will deal with the most. This is more advanced. But once you get that pie cut in, should you do it, don't walk in front of the tree. Makes sense, right? The tree's going to come down. Let's not walk in front of where that tree is going to come down. And he's starting his back cut. You'll notice that the back cut is slightly higher than the pie cut. He's up about 1 inch, 1.5 inches. That's so when the tree comes down, if it hits something, it won't kick back towards where you are. It's got that little piece of wood stopping it. Plus, when he does his back cut, like I said, he's not going to cut all the way through. So it shouldn't have a whole lot of momentum coming down to the ground. It should be a slow process. You should have time to finish your back cut, look up at the tree, and walk away with your chainsaw. And watch, as you walk away, watch it fall to the ground slowly. A lot of big timber people don't really care about the speed of the tree coming down. They're like production type people. When we're doing this, it's not about production, it's about safety. Remember to use your escape routes. Before you even start on the tree, you should clear an escape route. So you know exactly where you're going to go. You have an idea where the tree's going to go, right? Where you want it to go, where you've aimed it to go. So you, right? Where you want it to go, really. So you've aimed it, you want to go the opposite direction. But if there's a bunch of brush and stobs and stuff that's going to stop you or prevent you from getting to a safe spot, clear your path, fall the tree, and escape out your escape route. Notice the sawyer walking out his escape route while the tree slowly falls onto the face cut onto its desired direction of fall. So he's done it correctly. The tree's going over slowly. He has time to get out of the way and not worry about if that tree's going to kick back towards him. And you can see he didn't cut all the way through. You can see the tree didn't even come off the stump. That's perfect. Especially if you're starting to cut for firewood, if you're gonna use that tree. Right, which most of us are.
Yeah.
Once the tree's on the ground, you can start limbing. You know, we're talking about, or somebody was talking about dead trees on their property. That could be from bug kill, which is heavily prevalent on the Sierra National Forest. If you're gonna fall trees, it's super important that you're gonna burn shortly after. So if you have trees on your property that are dead, make sure you're gonna fall them during or fell them in the burning season. That way it doesn't, basically what happens once you drop that tree and it sits on the ground, those bugs are gonna look for other trees. But if you drop that tree, you limb it, and you start throwing those limbs into a fire, the bugs are gone. That's what we do as an agency anyway. That's what a finished product looks like. I mean, that's nice. Everybody wants the park environment. Well, for the most part, fire-wise, you definitely want a park-looking environment. You want that fire to come through, low intensity, on the ground, knock it up, and take off running. That's what we want, too. Trust me. See, it looks like a park, right? That might be a park.
There's cars back there.